Welcome everyone to the working party for the dRep working white paper, and we're finally at the stage of the final review of the editor's review of the white paper. So if I just share the screen on this, so if there's any brief updates from each participant. So I think we've done a brief update. We kind of like, if anyone wants to say how they feel or give a complete a very brief hello. Kenrick.
Yes, hello everyone from New England. Great to be nearing the end of our project. I think it's come along really well, and excited to finalize it with you this week.
Thank you, Kenrick. Aaron, whenever you just want to say hi, or how is it in Israel?
Yeah, so Shalom from Tel Aviv. This was a great process for us to, as a project, to understand better what we're doing and how it can all fit into the greater effort of Catalyst and the dRep and the liquid democracy idea. So yeah, we're very glad to get to this point.
That's great to hear. And finally, Steph, how are you doing? You feeling?
Life's good. Hi, everyone. I think the paper opened up a lot more questions, but happy to bringing this part of it to an end.
That's great. And as I was just saying, I'm in a good mood. I was a subdued time in the UK, but that's over now. And looking positive now, we're coming to achieve the ending of a milestone here, which is good. On the research budget, I think do we have anything to say on research budget, Cameron?
Yeah, well, I can give a couple updates. So
yeah,
I made baseline payments for participants providing reviews on the paper to 4 individuals, and then out of the total budget of $750 for that, I then also gave larger and significant bonuses to 2 people who had put quite a bit of effort into it. Andrew and Andre.
Right.
Andre, I think is the pronunciation.
Yeah.
And then Thurston was very helpful in the first half of the process as a deputy editor, but his time got restricted quite a bit this past month. So rather than making a payment to Thurston for his role, I've retained that myself and took on the duties of doing the final editing on the paper myself. It's Thurston now. Yeah.
So final editing on paper by Kenrick.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Tustin.
Hello.
Hi, do you want to give a brief update and just say hi, what you've been up to?
Yeah, I've been quite busy. I tried to more or less kind of do the intro today, but I learned from Kenrick that he wrote it already. So apologies for that.
Okay.
So it was kind of like saving me some time, but I put some time away today, but I saw it was done. So.
Well, we appreciate everyone's contribution. Because we're all very busy people, so it's quite a marvel that we actually get together to, considering each of the projects that we're working on already. So I think any effort is always appreciated. On the research project planning, well, really it was just going to be feeding into the monthly report, which will be really the outcome of this meeting, which I suppose will indicate how advanced we are with the white paper, which it seems we are quite well advanced. So I will feed that into the report on the 24th of September. This is for the CGO, the parent CGO project, which this is part of. But that is it really, because I think the budget's been covered by Kenrick. That's it. So if Kenrick, if you want to move on to the white paper and give general updates.
Yeah, so actually, I think what I want to do today is sort of start at the end of the process, which is the public release. I had initially planned that Friday might be a good day, but then it's occurred to me this week we have the Vassal hard fork on Thursday. So I think there'll be a lot of community attention around that hard fork. So I don't want to try to release this in the midst of that. So I think Monday is the better day to do the formal public announcement of the paper.
Right.
And I want to talk sort of like about how best to do that public announcement and also what medium to use. So it exists on Google Docs and will continue to exist on Google Docs, and the public has had access to it now for a while.
Well, I mean,
But-
whatever I can do. I mean, well, perhaps we can go around for suggestions. One suggestion I would have is I can do a little one of those explainer things, draw attention to it, the release, so we can.
Yeah, exactly. That's helpful for sure.
Yeah, and I'll do a quick. Although I haven't been involved in the editing of the paper, as I think I messaged you earlier, I'm quite happy to do a run through of the paper for what I would call a sanity check to see how it reads to a complete.
Yes, that also is very helpful.
Also, someone with fresh eyes, so I can come to it and just see how it reads, nothing to do with the content, just so it reads okay. Then I can take the paper and just condense it down into some animation stuff that we can put across social media. But you suggesting maybe we consider other things as well, Cameron.
Does
perhaps.
Danny
Well-
still have a newsletter, which he publishes on Friday?
Danny, yeah, but he's away at the moment, unfortunately. We might be able to do that through Chris Baird, sorry. I can contact him, but I can't confirm.
Okay, so that's a good,
Yeah,
that's a good idea. And again,
I would. put
I'm
it in-
thinking that my thought is to maybe not this Friday, but the following Friday, it would be good to have it in the newsletter. Again, my feeling is this week, all the attention is going to be on the Vassal hard fork. So I don't want to compete with that or step on that.
yeah.
Um,
On that
so-
subject,
so-
the Vassal hard fork is on the 22nd, is that right?
Thursday. Yeah.
There's something else happening on the 26th, the final. I thought when I looked at the schedule, there was another date on Monday.
It's actually 3 stages to the Vassal hard fork. So on Sunday, the software is actually triggered and now it's just an automated process. On Thursday is the next epic change, and then that's sort of officially the start of the Vassal era. And then on the 27th, there's a second iteration of the software that gets engaged. So what I understand is that some aspects of the code that were dependent on other aspects. So there's like a base layer that gets released on Thursday, and then the second layer gets released on 5 days later on the 27th.
And the voting results are probably going to be next week sometime as well. Is that right? Or
Yes, I believe so, because they've announced October 6th, 14
No,
days.
27th.
27th.
27th is when they're, okay.
So maybe I'm just thinking, because of those events, do we want to avoid the 26th and 27th? And do we want to go for something like the 28th or the 29th for a launch, Cameron?
Later in the week, you mean? Possibly. But we should also think about when we wanted, I would like to do an after town hall as part of the announcement. So one question is, what day do we want to do the after town hall?
Well, I suppose the first option is the 28th, isn't it?
Exactly. That's what I'm leaning towards, is I think if we do it, that helps me a little bit too, because I think the following week I plan to do a town hall on Photrek is doing a rebranding, and I'm tentatively targeting the 5th to do an after town hall on the rebranding that we've done in partnership with WADA. So if we could do it the 28th.
Are you sure that there will be a town hall at this time? Because it can be on the a cool down period between Fund 9 and Fund 10.
Oh, that's an excellent point.
Something you needed to get
Yeah,
check.
we need to check that. That's for the week of the 28th, Aaron, yeah.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen any updated schedule, but I know that there
Yeah,
will,
so I
there
need to
will
check.
be a cool down.
I need to check if there's a town hall next week, essentially. And if we're going to do the newsletter, we want to do that this week. Camric, if we're going to put something in the newsletter about.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So in other words, the 30th, there may not even be a newsletter because of the cool down. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So what I was thinking is, first of all, we could tease the paper, if you like, on the newsletter for this week. That's what I'm thinking. And then,
Well, you know what? Given what you're saying, then maybe we should just go ahead with the Friday public release. Because if the following week is a cool down, the other possibility is just to wait. Maybe the other thing, maybe the strategic thing to do is just to wait till after the cool down. And on October 3rd, when people come back from the cool down, that's when we release it.
yeah, I mean, the other thing is the relevance of the dReps, because when people come back after the cool down, which I think it's a few days, isn't it? I'm not sure, Aaron.
Like a week is what they.
Yeah.
plan on, right?
Then maybe the dReps will be in people's minds because of the Fund
Yeah.
10. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What do any other people think about that option? Aaron, Steph, Justin, you have any thoughts on that? We waited till after the cool down.
I think we can get it out. And sometimes you kind of have to warm it up afterwards again. So I mean, this is not something which you just push once and it's gone.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense kind of to get it out around the 28th if there is a town hall or the first after that one. And I think there is a possibility kind of like to revisit that topic also at a later moment in time.
Let's do it this way then. Let's do the release on Friday like we were originally planning, and let's get something in this week's newsletter that it's complete. And
Yeah,
like the person is describing, that gives people kind of a week and a half to read the paper, make their own sort of comments about it. And then that first week of October, let's kind of do another public announcement and have a town hall.
What I would do is I would put it into the newsletter if we can get it in there. And I would also kind of have an announcement on Discord.
Yeah.
And have an announcement on Telegram, at least in some of the channels. I don't know whether there's a specific one for dReps, for example.
Okay, yeah, there is. But just to be clear, the public release of the paper on Friday the 23rd, you're talking about, or
Yeah.
okay. And then
Now, one question is just the logistics of that. My time will be consumed with finalizing the bibliography. That's all I really have time for this week. Steve, do you have time to do the public release this week? Like to make those announcements?
I could if pushed. It will be tight. It'd be better if it was the.
But we don't have to rush that. I mean, it even is worthwhile doing it on a Monday or Tuesday the week after. So if it's in a newsletter, then it really recurs in another channel a few days later. Then you can do another push effectively on the social media channels before the town hall. And then you have the town hall, and then you kind of synchronize it that way.
What Stephen was pointing, or maybe it was even you, Thurston, is that next week is the formal cool down. So I don't think we should release it next week. And there's not necessarily even going to be a newsletter next week, given the cool down period. So it's kind of either release it this week or release it the first week of October. I don't think releasing it next week makes sense.
I agree. I think what we could do, I mean, these notes are getting a bit confusing up, but if I can confirm there's going to be a newsletter this week, then I think we should advertise it, if you like. So say that we are going to release the white paper on the first week of October, you say, yeah?
Yeah,
Which would be,
that's a good idea, because that way, Stephen, you can start writing up some sort of announcements,
yeah,
and we can kind of support you in doing that.
that'll
In other words,
yeah,
get it all together, and maybe, like you said, get it in this week's newsletter as an announcement that it's going to be formally released the first week of October, and that here's the, and that release, you can even say to some, maybe the way to say it is, the paper is completed, here is the link. And the first week of October, we plan to host after town hall meetings to discuss the results with the community.
okay. I mean, broadly, I mean, again, we could talk about, yeah, okay. We can mention the link to the white paper, okay.
Yeah.
And then advertise or showcase the ATH or something in there. And then the actual formal public release would be on Monday, the 3rd of October, or could be on the day of the after town hall. So if we had the after town hall on the 5th of October, for example.
Well,
I mean-
maybe, you know what might also be strategic is if we keep with our schedule, we could have one more meeting as a group on Tuesday. And that purpose of that meeting would just to be review our communication. And
Next Tuesday, it's the
no,
27th.
2 weeks, in other words, 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
And then right out that meeting would be kind of our public release of the paper.
Okay. So that'll be the final. Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna have it done, it's gonna be done hopefully later today. And part of it is I have a very full schedule for the month of October now. And so I that's part of why I have been kind of sticking to the deadline is if I didn't have the flexibility to push the deadline out.
Okay, we're
But
coming.
nevertheless, I don't mind meeting one more time to kind of finalize our communication of the paper, including planning for the after town hall. And maybe that should be the next agenda item is our planning for the town hall.
Okay.
I would put one more in, but it depends on the appetite, which is, it probably is worthwhile trying to get into the swarm session and bring it on the agenda effectively after town hall. I don't know how
Yes,
busy.
that's the
yeah.
kind of thing I want to talk about, because we actually have like 5 town halls now, and there are other
I know.
venues.
I know.
So we should decide as a team which ones we want to
Yeah.
try to participate in.
Yeah.
Okay, just to sort of be clear, the weekly, we're aiming for some training of this. Okay, the wording we can do maybe asynchronously, Camric or in Discord, which will be this Friday in a newsletter. I need to check with Chris Baird if the
Right.
newsletter is going to be available, and that'll be the 23rd of September, this Friday. And then we have a meeting on the 2nd of October, and the day of that meeting is the day we release the white paper. Yeah.
Formally.
So, yeah. And then we would arrange to have an after town hall the following day, or what? Something like
Yeah.
It's actually the 5th. I've got the date wrong. That's the 3rd of October. The 4th of October, sorry, is the Tuesday. Sorry. So yeah, Tuesday, the 4th of October is when you would have a final release meeting and then release the paper. The next day, we would have an after town hall to discuss the paper. and all the marketing and social media stuff would happen on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, on Tuesday. So that's what I would work for. And that gives me quite a lot of time to, well, enough time to do something quite nice, you know. And as you say,
Right.
Tilston, we can then coordinate the different channels.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm mentioning Swarm is that by nature is a little bit more along the lines of discussing topics rather. I mean, after town halls have a little bit different dynamics.
Right.
So
Yeah.
You think
No,
of a
I think
Saturday,
it's a
you
good
think of a
suggestion. So that if you do those two meetings, that's Wednesday afternoon and that's Saturday afternoon.
swarm
agree
session
that
would
those-
be on a Saturday, wouldn't it? So what
Yeah.
yeah. So it's I think it's
the following Saturday, you're thinking of the 8th.
yeah. So I will have to reach out to Felix and see whether we can get into that.
That's enough notice, but if we tell him now, I think he'll appreciate it. But if you could handle that, Tristan.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So Saturday, the 8th of October.
Are there any other town halls that members of the community are either already attending or and members of this group already attending, or we particularly want to make sure we attend?
I
Yes.
can, well, we should discuss that now. Let's just put this here.
Yeah.
Okay, so other town halls, okay. I mean, there's Eastern Town Hall.
That's a sucker. Of course, that's kind of like
That's tricky, yeah, because it's hard for us here to attend. I can put a notice in their Discord. It's not quite the same, but there's almost enough time. I was thinking of the issue of translations, but that's maybe an off-topic thing. Because we haven't really budgeted for translation, so
Yeah. My time will be limited too during the next month, so I'm gonna suggest right now that why don't we plan on the after town hall meeting on Wednesday and the swarm session on Saturday? And then as we open it up, maybe we'll even get invitations from community members for particular meetings or particular YouTube channels that want to discuss this. You know, there's a lot of Twitter spaces now, for instance, that have become very popular. That could be another avenue.
Arlington, Solido Nation.
yeah, Legion Nation. There's also maybe reach out to some
Could
YouTube
reach out to Reese.
YouTube channels.
I could reach out to Reese from Stoic Pool.
Yeah, does he do a Twitter space or is it?
No, he's doing video, so YouTube.
Okay. Yeah.
One
Reese-
question then is, Stephen, I think, is gonna sort of coordinate getting some things written up for our communication. Thurston, do you have time to kind of schedule you're gonna schedule the after town hall and the swarm?
Yeah, I
is
can do that.
what-
That's not a problem. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. That's
All right,
that's
so
that's
maybe
easy.
you can
That's easily done.
also, if you sense any other groups that can be prioritized, maybe you can try to schedule that.
Yeah.
I will try to be available when requested, but October is gonna be a very difficult month for me.
Well, we can kind of keep the fire burning. There is also November after October.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean there is fuel here because we need to pay attention to what happens with the dRep implementation.
Yeah.
So I'll just put that note here. So we need to observe dRep implementation and respond. So for example, if Jax does something and we go along to that and discuss something of the white paper or something like that. You know, so
Okay, why don't we segue now, because I see it's 2:30, to just final review of the paper itself.
Okay.
And can we is there anything else to wrap up before we move on?
No, that's fine.
that's fine. Shall I hand it over to you to screen share the paper or?
Yeah, you need to give me approval for that. Okay, there it
Okay.
goes.
And you're going to send these notes out after the meeting, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry,
Alright.
I'll put the link into the. I'll just give you the link. You didn't have the link earlier in the meeting, Torsten.
all right, so we now have a 3-paragraph introduction. What I did today is just polish up the first 2 paragraphs that were already written. In
You
this
found
section,
the data, the numbers that you were looking for?
no, I still
funded-
haven't found that. That was one of my open questions. Does someone have a source I can't find this source. I know it's available. It's sometimes in the after town hall presentations, but I can't find a clear source for,
Maybe you can take it from here. The funded project reporting has also summarized of all the funding. So I see that in Fund 8, it was requested $12.8 million, distributed 7.9.
okay, perfect.
This is what you were looking for? This is the numbers?
Let me just check. Which column? I have the thing open. Which column should I look at?
On Fund 8 reporting. So you need to choose which fund are you looking for, and then on column E, and column E is the requested, is the total amount, and column F is
All
how
right,
much
fine.
is distributed.
All right, fine, thanks, that's perfect. Yeah, and I'll
cool.
reference that. Okay, thank you. That'll help me finish that part. Very good. What I decided to do in the way, I'm gonna try to do this consistently through the rest of the paper on the references, is that if it's a scholarly publication, then it's gonna go into the bibliography. If it's a web page, then it's going to be a hyperlink. And I think that is a good way to do this. I've not seen it done this way, and I'm not saying this is perfect, but it seems to be a good compromise in the sense that the purpose of a bibliography really is to give you kind of the scholarly references. But where things are more like a web page, it's nice to have the hyperlink. Does that seem like a good way to do it? What do people think?
Yeah, I think so, because I share non-scholarly things in my section, so it's
Right.
helpful to have that hyperlink.
Okay,
Would that also be listed at the end as well, though?
I'm not doing that right now, partly because the Zotero, I have mixed feelings about Zotero and its interface with Google Docs. It's not as easy to work with as I would have liked. So getting those web pages into Zotero the right way, making sure it's a good citation, that's going to take a little more time.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm not planning to do that.
I mean, you could do the whole thing by hand, but the
Yeah, I don't want to do that either.
Yeah,
I do
sure.
have Zotero working now, so I'm going to kind of persevere with it.
but I see what you mean about the compromise then. Yeah.
All right, so then the last paragraph gives a 1-sentence, or rather 2-sentence introduction to each section. So you should take a moment and read your introduction, and you can make edits to that. Also, I should clarify, like I did some scoping down today in terms of what people's roles are. So on the sharing of it, well, let me ask this question to Aaron and Steph. Do you feel your sections are done now, or do you still have some do you still need some additional time on your section?
I feel that I read through it like every day or every other day, and I make small edits to how it sounds. But I would say it's done.
Yeah.
And then it's just being picky about some stuff. which
Okay,
is
I
why I was
concur. I think your
very
section
happy
is
to
fine,
shake
and
my.
and I appreciate you've put a lot of work into it, so it's come out well. And
I was
Aaron,
happy to hear Steven say that somebody might come to it with a clearer or
Yeah.
that was just like a sanity check. That's kind of what mode I'm
Yeah.
in.
I'll also be suggesting things like formatting issues and things like that. Just so not so much to do with the content, unless the content reads badly, which I doubt it will,
right, exactly.
because
Just not a
you've had
grammatical thing.
yeah,
Right.
unless it's obviously doesn't read well. But you're right, Steph. That kind of I've almost deliberately not read it actually, so that I can come to it and say, well, how does this read fresh? So yeah.
And Aaron, do you feel
Yeah,
comfortable that your section is done, or do you feel you need more time?
It can be always can be more improve more to add more improvement, but I think as Steph, I need some fresh eyes to give me the feedback if it's coherent, if it's fit into the main idea. I think that the work that we have done over the last weeks has accomplished this goals. It is,
Okay.
and I just need some
So,
confirmation
so
that it is coherent enough and good for now. Good
yeah,
as it is.
I concur that I think it's complete now. We, you did excellent work on it, and then I added a paragraph for transition, so it's more relatable to the dRep's problems, and I think that helps. So here's why I'm asking the question is, after today's meeting, what I'm going to do is kind of change the permissions on the document. So all of the community commenters will go back to being viewers, right? We're not going to take any more outside comments. And then all of the authors will become commenters. So you won't be able to edit your section anymore, but you can still comment on it. And particularly, it is good for you to read the other sections, because even though you're only representing your section, it is going to be part of a larger group. So if you have time to comment on the other sections, that is helpful. And then finally, I'll just have, it'll just be Stephen and I that are retained as editors. And for your role, Thurston, if you can focus on coordinating, our
We'll do.
meetings with the
The
public,
meetings,
that'll
that's
be very
fine. That's
helpful.
fine. That's good.
Could you just drop I've got so many documents. Could you just drop a link into the latest version of this in chat?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
and I mean, if there's anything contentious, possibly contentious, I won't necessarily edit it directly, Kenrick. I might put it in a comment. So
Yes, that's fine too. And make sure you, on any edits you do, unless they're very simple grammatical things, you can use the suggestion tool rather than just changing it. That is helpful. But
yeah,
I want to minimize changes at this point. I think as you read through it, the one area I anticipate some contention on is our use of the word dictator as, but I think it's important, and I think we want your feedback on this, but I think we've been careful in making sure this is understood to be a technical definition. That if a coalition forms as a group and they make decisions together, we do outline when that coalition becomes a dictator, that
did you consider any formatting issue, like for example putting it in quotation marks or italics? Or I need to look at it again. I'm not sure if that's appropriate, because it depends about consistency.
Yeah, why don't
throughout the
you
whole
look at it?
document.
That's I guess what I'm saying is the most controversial part of it will be some of the analysis that Steph has completed, where we describe when the voting process transitions to a situation where there's a small group that becomes a dictator of the process, and then there's a larger group that becomes what's called dummy voters, in the sense that whatever they vote, it's not going to change the outcome. But those are, I think at the same time, that's part of what's critically important to help the community understand, because it's understanding these kinds of issues that then gives you the potential to create solutions against them. So I don't, I think and I think this is stated that the intent of the designers of the community is clear, to promote decentralized decision-making. But we also want to be realistic about the challenges of achieving that, and what the obstacles are that have to be overcome.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so then so going step by step through this now, but rather quickly, since we only have a few more minutes. Philip Lazos has done an excellent job on his work with doing this literature review. And he did today take time to go through the community's responses. When you do your check, one of the things you can look at is to open up the comments, and what I asked him to do, I don't know if he's done this completely, but what I asked him to do is, if you make a change your document, and then also put a short reply in the comments so that the commenter knows what the change is.
Right.
I'm not sure if he exactly followed that, but that's the idea. In other words, you can open up the comments still, and even though all of them are approved now, you can still see the threads of who commented and what the response was.
Okay. That's useful, actually, yes, because they disappear when you approve them on the.
Yeah, and I don't know how to close that now, but we'll leave it open for the moment. So anyways, that section has come out very good, and I think it's a terrific kind of in-depth understanding of what liquid democracy is, what its strengths are, what its potential shortcomings are. And so it was really terrific to have Philip as part of the team. Okay, so as I scroll down here, and then, so if we, it's going slow.
I think if you click on the icon, the comment icon again, it'll disappear, Cameron. Just click on that
I
again.
thought, but it didn't.
Oh well.
But that is what's slowing it down. Yeah, so if I can,
it's weird
try
how
to close that.
you think it would do that. Yeah, it doesn't. Oh well.
Well, it might do that, but it's just right now my computer is very slow in responding.
Yeah, it's coming up now. So that's
Yeah. All right, so it might, yeah. Okay, so this is a full paragraph on the last page, so that should work out. So we're up to 7 pages. So his section, I think if let's see, we have a title page, and we have 2 pages for the introduction. So his is about 4 pages, and that, I think that works out well. Steph's section is longer, but there's quite a bit of important content in here. So I think that's okay. One part of the process we went through, he had a draft that was almost 15 or 16 pages, and he has quite a bit of content that had to come out. So I asked him to get it down to less than 10 pages, which he's done. And I really compliment you, Steph. The writing is excellent. The technical content is excellent. I think this is going to be kind of a section that's going to attract a lot of interest in the community. And it fulfills part of the original aspirations that FOTREC had been seeking to accomplish in its analysis during Fund 4. But as people can see in what you've done, it's not easy. It's not an easy task to do these computations. So we have
those people that are listed, Jesus and Seth, are the people that helped write the technical calculation of it. So
Yeah.
And then Kenrick and I did share equally the writing there. So just so thank you for your comments. And also that's why those other names are there.
Okay.
One thing, I don't think I'm gonna have time, but it does occur to me that maybe a footnote on who the authors are would be helpful. I put it in the introduction for the lead authors. I'll think about that. It's, but in any case, we have a nice definition of what the bonds-off power index is. We have a nice, we have three really nice examples. We have a very simple abstract example. We have the
Another one.
Genesis key example.
Does,
And then
do you
we
think that
have-
this, sorry, do you think that that might be controversial with the community?
Yes, but
Yeah.
that's, but the community needs to know these issues.
Okay, I'm just saying, just preparing for the fire.
Yeah.
Just a side,
And it was
just a side note on the authors. Perhaps you can do the same, at least for with the lead auditor. I don't know, it more or less probably destroys a little bit kind of like the
Right.
nice heading, but if there would be the ability to have an email address to contact the author.
Yeah, that's what I have to think about.
That's an
That
interesting point,
is in,
I don't think.
let's
Torsten-
come back to that issue.
I don't
Let me
think-
finish the review.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to attract as much controversy as you think, Torsten. But that's my view. But
Well, it depends how they take it from the ILG side, to be very
okay,
honest.
yeah,
Well,
sure.
the other side of it is, it's been publicly available for 2 months now, so it's not, if we were going to get, if there were concerns, there's been time to raise those concerns.
Yeah.
We've even had, we had a town hall earlier discussing this. So in any case, just to finish this up, then Focheck had done analysis on Fund 4 and 5, and Steph's Wolfram team has taken that data and now done a much more detailed analysis of how the weight of votes translates into voting power. So we have these nice graphs, and this is what I'm talking about here, where if the 10%, if the top 10% of wallets formed a coalition and voted together, they would form a dictatorship. Now, it's still hard to do. There's about 50,000. I think in Fund 5, there was about 50,000 wallets. So that would involve 5,000 of the top wallets forming a team, a cohesive team. That's still not easy to do, but nevertheless, it's a good reference in terms of what the
But
distribution looks
question,
like.
these were segments, yeah? You split it into segments, right?
Yeah, well, no, this is not segments. This is the actual
10%
number
off?
of wallets, the top 10% of wallets. There's another analysis on segments by wealth.
Okay.
But just again, we're just going quickly today. So then if you randomly distribute the wallets, then you do get equal outcomes in the power. And then Thurston, this is maybe the one you're referring to. If you segment the wallets by wealth cohorts, from 500 to 5,000, for example, this is what the distribution looks like.
Just very briefly.
Let's not go into the technical analysis today. We don't have time for that, but offline, you're welcome to reach out to either Steph or I, if you have questions about it.
Okay.
Yeah, Steph, I will follow up on that one with you, because it's now quite an interesting question, which is coming into play with 150 dReps, whereby the representation of voting power is known, is opening the door for this kind of coalition. It might even occur by itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. And we don't get into that in this paper, but it motivates another research paper on those kind of issues. So then, Aaron also has completed an excellent section with his team. And what they're discussing here is, and the way I kind of preface it, given the movement to dReps, which has a lot of complexities to it in terms of how it's going to work, there's also the need to have careful documentation and careful agreements. And there's all kinds of different agreements that are going to be necessary for the dReps to function properly. They need to know exactly what their roles are. People who are delegating need to know what their roles and code of conduct is. In other words, I think people are sort of clear that a dRep has a sort of code of conduct that they need to follow. But I don't know that people are as aware that if you're going to delegate to someone, you also have a code of conduct that you need to follow in not bullying dReps into a particular viewpoint. I think that's going to be a challenge. So those are the kinds of things that I think Aaron's consents team can help with. And what he describes in here is the process of writing community agreements where built into the process, we did a community document here using the Google Docs tool. But what's missing is when people make a suggestion or make an edit, what his tool will provide is the ability to vote as a community on whether to accept or reject that edit. And that takes more time. It's a more time-intensive process. But particularly on legal agreements, that could be very useful.
Yeah, I think it has broader significance than dReps in a way, because it's about I think you got it in that sentence near the beginning, which is quite good. I saw there. It's about decision-making in documentation itself. So the documentation becomes a decision-making process in itself. It's part of governance itself. And that's not just for dReps, that can go for other things as well. So
exactly.
That's very significant.
This section contains two main suggestions or offers to use by the community. And the first one is, as you described, Kenrick, is how to support the dRep Institute by creating this shared agreement, this governance documentation. And the second one is how can we use the same method of creating documentation, governance documentation, in different democracy system, like liquid democracy, direct democracy, so different layers. And this is the second part of this section. So one is very focused specifically on the needs of the dReps, introduction into the process of Catalyst, and the second one is a little bit wider about diverse decision-making methods and different democracy systems that can be used in Catalyst and in other DAOs. So I hope it's fit together. So
it all looks quite good. There was one issue that I'm concerned about is the fonts in this figure are very small and hard to read. There's kind of rule of thumb that font size 8 is sort of the minimum you should use even in a figure. Is there a way to increase the font size of this without making the figure too much larger? Is that possible?
This image is a crop from for a mirror board. So I will just edit the mirror board and I will add a new image to the document.
Do you have editing rights to the mirror board? Are you able to edit it, or is it just?
Yeah.
So I don't know how much work it would do, but I can't make the figure larger because we're at the boundaries of the document. But if in each box,
I will do it. I will take care of it.
Yeah. If you can do that, if you can increase the font size of the whole thing, and you might even end up having to split it into different figures somehow to get it to fit in here. But that would be very helpful if you can do that. And I guess I'll leave you as an editor for that so that you can do that. Okay.
Okay.
And that's it. That's the paper. I'm working on getting, there's some things I have to work through on Zotero. Like I have right now multiple versions of these references. So that will get sorted out though. And I will be removing, I'll put this in another file so we don't lose it, but all of this is going to come out. That's going to get deleted. And so the references will be the last part of this.
Are we
You know what we
satisfied?
could include?
Are we satisfied that implications for dRep implementation are highlighted here? Or would that be something downstream, Camric, like something else we would work on? Like there's a lot of stuff stated here that has stuff that can contribute to a further debate. Yeah, sure. Like about the documentation side, Steph's work on the dictator versus the dummy. But what we haven't explicitly said, and I think it's in a way it's a good thing you haven't explicitly said this, is these have implications for the dRep implementation. And maybe we should, it's not our role to point those out, but they are, it is clearly there in the paper. So that may be something to think about when marketing the paper and stuff like that.
I did include a sentence like that in the introduction where I said that, you know, the purpose of this paper is to provide some initial analysis of the delegated representatives process. However, given the scope of Catalyst, given the complexity of liquid democracy, you know, this initial analysis is limited in scope.
Yeah, sure. But I suppose that's the kind of thing that can come out in after town hall debates. You know, yeah. So there is actually, from a CGO perspective, I'll make a note to think about the documentation of that, because, and also I think Steph, you might, or Aaron, you might appreciate that, because if people are going to talk about your work, then we obviously need to capture, hopefully try and capture that as well, if there's some interesting feedback. So I'll try and think about that.
One thing
Yeah,
I
what do
could
you-
add that, go ahead, Steph.
No, actually, you can go ahead.
Well, one thing I could add after the references is a contact information section. And I think though it's probably better to leave it to the lead authors and the editors. And maybe I'll think about doing that. In other words, we could do something like, you know, for information about governance, contact Stephen Wittenhouse. I always say your name wrong, excuse me, Wittenhall.
Wittenstall.
Wittenstall.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
it's
It's
a hard name.
I need to hear it in order to remember it.
Wittenstall. Yeah.
Wittenstall. Okay.
Yeah. Good old Anglo-Saxon name.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
And then you could say, you know, contact myself for editorial content of the paper, and then contact each of the lead authors for information about their section. Probably that's worthwhile. The other option, maybe this is more relevant, maybe each section could have a contact. Yeah, that's maybe the better way to do it. So I think this will, I'll change the title here now too, but I'll, maybe the editors can each have their email. That might make sense. And then at the end of each section, the
And that contact would be for people who want to say, I want to speak to Steph about his material, for example. That's why
yeah,
the context
exactly.
it. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's important. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Do you remember I created effectively an email address?
Yeah, I have.
I gotta go,
emails.
guys.
Thanks,
All right,
Steph.
take care, Steph.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't know whether you want to use that or not.
I think the problem with those created email addresses is,
No, we don't want to do that.
yeah, I would fall back if people are reasonably okay with their, I mean, our emails are quite public now anyway.
Yeah.
But I think that's better, Torsten, because they'll get lost otherwise.
That's fine. I mean, I don't have an issue with this, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to mention that. I mean, I don't have an issue.
Yeah, but then I would say to each one of us, if we coordinate, I don't think it might split the feedback. I think you're saying it might split the feedback. So
I can put it like, I don't have, you know, as far as bots go, I could put sort of the name space at, you know, I don't know if that helps against bots, but we could do that.
Are we coming to the end of the meeting? Would you
Yeah,
say?
I think we are. I think we've covered everything that I needed to cover.
For the formal meeting.
Appreciate all the input.
So I mean, I'll just stop the recording here now, unless anyone